Hello students, now we will try to understand the second part of your economics book, that is macro part, that is macroeconomics. So far we have understood what is microeconomics and which are the various chapters and what are the various important concepts over there. Now we will completely concentrate on understanding the macro part of it, that is macroeconomics. I think I would have already told you over there in the first part that the term or the concept micro and macroeconomics was introduced into economics by an economist by name Professor Ragnar Frisch. He was from Oslo University. So in Norway there is one famous university by name Oslo University, and he was a professor over there, Professor Ragnar Frisch, and he is the one who coined these two terms, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Of course, even much before him also there was a concept called as micro and macro, but giving it a proper shape or giving it a proper framework was done by this person, Professor Ragnar Frisch, and he was from Norway. He was a Norwegian economist. And this Ragnar Frisch, he was the first person who won the first Nobel Prize for economics. For your information, the first Nobel Prize for economics was shared by two economists. One was Professor Ragnar Frisch, the other one was Professor John Tinbergen. And Ragnar Frisch won the Nobel Award. So for his contribution to economics, he is the one who coined these two terms, micro and macroeconomics words. At the outset, let us first try to understand what is the basic difference between these two concepts. What is microeconomics and what is macroeconomics? Now there are plenty of differences between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Now hopefully we will not be trying to discuss all those differences between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Instead, we will try to understand some of the important differences between these two. First, we will start with microeconomics. The term micro is derived from a Greek word called as mikros, which means small. As the name itself indicates, microeconomics used to study a small part of the economy. In fact, the methodology microeconomics adopts, we call it as slicing method. It is called as a slicing method, where it is not going to study entire economy at one stretch. Instead, it is going to concentrate on only and only on a small part of the economy. Say for example, if at all you take this as an economy, it is not going to study the entire economy at one stretch. Instead, it is going to slice that economy into several parts or several pieces, and it is going to take up only and only one particular part at a time. After this, it will go to second one. After this, it will go to next one. Like that, it is going to cover up the entire system, or it is going to cover the entire economy one by one after the other. That is the reason it is called as bit by bit approach. It is called as bit by bit approach. It is as simple as saying, say for example, in a classroom there are 60 students. Out of 60, some 10 students gets up and they are asking me 10 different doubts. Is it possible to clarify all their 10 doubts at the same point of time? No, it is not going to be possible. So therefore, what will I do? First, I will go to one student and I will clarify his or her doubt. After that student, I will go to the next student and then I am going to clarify his or her doubt. After that, next one. After that, next one. Like that, one by one, I will be clearing the doubts of entire class. Just like that, even microeconomics also, at a particular point of time, at a given point of time, it is going to concentrate only and only on a small part of the economy. Once it has studied that particular part, then it will go to the second part, then to the third part, then fourth part. Like that, it is going to cover up the entire system one by one. So that is what we call it as, it's a bit by bit approach. I hope all of you will be knowing that microeconomics is also called as price theory. It is also called as price theory, and this microeconomics is also going to be called as microscopic study. It offers us the microscopic study. What is that microscopic study? Anyway, you all have seen what is microscope. In microscope, what we do? We take a small iota of an object and we place it over there and we study that in detail. Same way, in case of microeconomics, we don't deal with all the parts simultaneously. Instead, we take only and only one particular part and we will be trying to study that particular part in detail. Once that part is over, then only we will move ahead to other part. If not, we will not go only, and we make an assumption. What is that assumption? We make an assumption that while studying one particular part or while studying one particular bit of an economy, we presume everything else is going to remain constant. and you know economic activities or economic variables will never remain constant. Therefore, microeconomics is considered to be unrealistic. Why? Because it makes assumptions, and for a beginner this microeconomics is more advisable, because for a beginner he has to study things one by one. You cannot pour all the concepts on top of his head. Instead, he has to start slowly. That is the reason for a beginner microeconomics is more advisable, and this microeconomics offers us the worm's eye view, where a worm, whenever it is moving, it's going to see a small part of land right before it. Same way here also, microeconomics is going to concentrate, or microeconomics is going to study only and only a small part of the economy. This is about microeconomics. Of course, microeconomics is a time consuming. It consumes lot of time because you have to study all the units one after the other. So that is the reason it is time consuming. On the other hand, you have got macroeconomics. Unlike microeconomics, in contrast with that, macroeconomics is derived from a Greek word called as macros, and macros means large, where the methodology followed by microeconomics is called as a slicing method, but the methodology followed by macroeconomics is called as a lumping method. What is this lumping method? In case of lumping method, we don't study things one after the other. Instead, we study the entire economics, or we study the entire economy at one go or at one stretch. In lump sum we study. Therefore, macroeconomics is also called as aggregate economics, where in case of macroeconomics, in case of microeconomics, we used to study things bit by bit. But here we will be trying to study the entire economy at one stretch. Say for example, if at all assume that I have to teach a concept, assume that I need to talk about consumption. If at all I follow micro approach, what should happen? First I should go to one student, after teaching him or her, second student, then the third students, then the fourth, 5, 6, like that. By the time I come to the 60th student, by that time it would be, time would have got over, and it would have taken weeks together. Instead, one simple job I can do. What is that simple job? All 60 of them are interested in learning about consumption due to their examination, or maybe for the purpose of knowledge. In that case, I am going to accommodate all 60 of them under the same roof, and I am going to teach once for all. So that means to say, here I will not be teaching one by one. Instead, I will be teaching the entire crowd at one stretch. That is called as lumping method, where in aggregation, we will be dealing with the concept not one by one. On the other hand, in case of microeconomics, microeconomics was called as price theory, and macroeconomics is called as income theory, where we will be trying to understand the determination of national income, not income of an individual over here. And apart from that, this microeconomics is called as microscopic study. Macroeconomics is popularly called as a telescopic study. It is called as the telescopic study, where microeconomics, it used to make assumption while studying one, all other will remain constant. But in macroeconomics, since we concentrate on all the variables simultaneously, there is no need to make any kind of assumptions, and moreover, here it is considered to be realistic. If microeconomics offers us worm's eye view, of course macroeconomics is going to offer us the bird's eye view. Bird's eye view it's going to offer us. Right? And for any beginner, microeconomics is useful means for any kind of policy makers or planners. Macroeconomics is going to be more advisable, because you will be planning not for one particular small segment, but instead you will be planning for the entire country. If this is time consuming, that is time conserving. Like this, there are many other differences between microeconomics and macroeconomics. The father of economics, Professor Adam Smith, he was a great profounder of microeconomics. He never advocated macroeconomics. In fact, Professor Adam Smith used to say that if both buyers and sellers in each market, if at all they take decisions according to their own self-interest, if at all buyers and sellers, they take decisions in accordance with their best self-interest, then the economist need not to worry or need not to think about the wealth and welfare of the country as a whole separately. That's what he used to advocate. No doubt, this particular view is called as a classical view. In fact, all these classical economists also under the impression that any economy would operate in full employment. That means, in any economy, whoever is willing to work and whoever is capable to work, all of them will be employed one way or the other way, and any factory or any firm will always work or operate at its full capacity. These were the basic presumptions of classical economists. But one important economic event that took place late back in the year 1930s, it was more or less like an eye-opener. That incident is called as World's Great Depression. We will talk about that Great Depression after some time. But people who used to strongly depend on microeconomics, they slowly started understanding the relevance of macroeconomics. Right? Economists started understanding that it is not only microeconomics, but understanding macroeconomics is very, very important rather than concentrating only on microeconomics. This could be, the importance could be substantiated with a small example. Assume that you have got a ship. Your ship is a well-built, strong ship. Imagine that ship, your own ship, it's just like a company. Your company is strong enough. But the ship is manufactured not to simply park it onto the shore, but you have to take it onto the sea. Need not to say, whenever the ship is sailing on the sea, the sail will never be a smooth flow. Instead, there will be ups and downs, there will be oscillations. And that oscillations are not caused by the ship, instead it is caused by the waves. That means, before you could take your ship onto the ocean, you are going to understand what are the conditions. So that means to say, nobody can live in isolation unless and until you keep tab on what's happening around. You will never be able to succeed. That is the reason understanding the entire economy is very, very important, and economists started understanding the relevance of this macroeconomics, and they started giving more importance to macroeconomics apart from microeconomics. Economists found that, first of all, in first case, there are certain commodities or services for which market does not exist at all. Secondly, they found that in many cases, market exists, but it failed to produce the equilibrium output which is equal, which makes demand and supply to equal. Third, and most importantly, in many cases, the society decided to pursue certain important social goals unselfishly. Because microeconomics thinks that any individual always acts in a selfish manner. But macroeconomics is going to talk about social welfare. And in reality, it was found that whenever a company is operating, company no doubt is interested in earning profitability. But in the meantime, company is also going to provide employment opportunity to many others living in the society. So, variables like providing employment opportunity, administration, education, health, drinking water, defense, like this, where the society or the entire economy as such will be pursuing certain objectives unselfishly. So, people or society will never act selfishly every time. So, for which some of the microeconomic decisions made by the individuals need to be changed. Say for example, at microeconomics, we used to say that for a particular individual, saving is always good. Say from my income, I am able to spend some amount of money on consumption and I am able to save more and more. It is good for me. What is good for an individual need not be good for the entire economy. Say for example, if the entire economy starts saving, if government starts saving more and more and government is not spending money on public utility works, it is going to have adverse effect on the economy. So therefore, what is good for a person need not be good for the entire society. Therefore, especially in a developing country like ours, India, study of macroeconomics is very much important to deal with some of the socio-economic problems that are rampant. Say for example, in a developing country like India, we have got unemployment problem. So what are the causes for unemployment? How to deal with this unemployment? What are the effects of unemployment? What are the policy measures that should be taken to deal with this unemployment? And remember, whenever we make such kind of policies, those policies will not be made only and only for a particular place. It will not be for a particular state. It will not be for a particular taluka. Instead, it will be for the entire country. Similarly, whenever we talk about inflation, we need to bring down the price level not only for one particular region, instead for the entire country. Similarly, whenever government talks about providing safety or security, defense is not only for a particular segment of the population, instead it should be for everyone. So therefore, lot of microeconomic concepts which were deeply rooted, they need to be uprooted, and we need to talk about socio-economic problems, solving or dealing with the socio-economic problems on a macroeconomic basis, definitely not from micro perspective. Therefore, the ideologies of microeconomics and the working mechanisms of macroeconomics were totally different, and they were in contrast with each other. In microeconomics, which are the market forces? Of course, demand and supply. But in macroeconomics, the agents are totally different from individual decision making agents as it happens in micro. In macro, then who will be the decision making agents or who will be the economic agents? In macroeconomics, either decisions will be taken by the government. If not, it is going to be taken by the statutory bodies established by the government. Say for example, in our country, how many currency notes to be printed? That decision will not be taken by the government. Instead, it will be taken by RBI. And RBI is a statutory body of government. Similarly, regulating the money market, regulating the capital market, SEBI looks after it. How much loans must be advanced to priority sector? NABARD takes a decision. So that means to say, in case of macroeconomics or from the entire country perspective, the macroeconomic agents are either they will be government or it's going to be statutory bodies established by the government. So therefore, the approach, the methodology should be totally different from what we are going to follow over there in microeconomics. In microeconomics, what we do, whatever resource is available, we will be planning to use that resource for the utmost benefit of an individual welfare. But in macroeconomics, we will be trying to use a scarce resource not for the purpose of individual welfare, but of course it is going to be for the general welfare or it is going to be for the society's welfare. And the importance of macroeconomics, the subject matter of macroeconomics started gaining momentum, started becoming more and more important only after one important economic event which took place late back in the year 1930s, that is World's Great Depression. I hope all of you might have heard about that depression where economic activities will be taking place below its normalcy. When economic activities are low, production activities are going to be affected. When production activities are less, people are jobless. When people are jobless, no income. No income, no purchasing capacity. No purchasing capacity, no demand. No demand, no sales. No sales, no profitability. When there is no profitability, business companies decided to go for closure. So we call it as business failure. And whenever businesses fails, unemployment problem touches the peak. Now the question arises, how are we going to deal with this particular unemployment problem? How to ensure that whatever goods which are stocked, how it is going to be sold in the market? How to get rid of the bottlenecks which are created in the economy? All these questions poses a challenge before us. Therefore, the outburst of World's Great Depression, in fact, believe it or not, between 1929 and 1933, in a span of 4 years, the unemployment percentage in America stood up from 3% to 25%, right? And where general price level was very high and people lacked purchasing capacity. At that particular point of time, there was one world-renowned economist by name Professor John Maynard Keynes. He authored a book in the year 1936. The name of the book is The General Theory. The General Theory on Employment, Interest and Money. Employment, Interest and Money, and this particular book was authored in the year 1936. So it is considered to be the masterpiece of Professor J.M. Keynes. In this particular book, Professor J.M. Keynes advocated that we have to deal with these kind of economic problems from a macro perspective, not from an individual perspective. Therefore, the subject which was neglected before 1930 started gathering momentum, and that particular subject which was not at all given importance or weightage started becoming the cynosure. It started attracting the interests of all the policy makers. Why? Because whenever they make policies, they have to make policies for the entire country. So they need to look at the entire economy, solving the economic problems from a new angle or from a new perspective, and macroeconomics provides that insight.